Hello, please. Hello, please. Hello, hello. Alright, cool. Hey, y'all. Another day of this. I got some cool idea today I wanted to vibe out on. Yeah, this idea has been in my head for about a week, and it's already been changing my life ridiculously for efficiency and looking at it clearly via metacognition. So this idea is called rhythmic intersections, and it seems like a really basic thing, but it gets so deep and wormy. It's just like trying to fix a car. You have a lot of simple mechanisms that operate off of turning something right or left, but there's layers and layers and layers, and it literally takes time to access certain layers just to be able to untie the knot or screw in that one bolt a little better or any of that stuff. If we can address the problem in honesty and reality, it's because we've taken the time to address it. And some problems are just right in your face, it's like, if you drop something, you can just pick it up and throw it away or whatever, and that's done, that's over. But then there's other problems of like unlearning habits and something like that. You'd have to notice the habit in the first place. You have to notice yourself and your patterns, your habitual patterns, and then try to notice where those are coming from. And that's where this starts to get wormy. And that's also one of the ways this becomes extremely empowering, is because these devices they're like giant machines that move much smaller pieces, like with using a concept like leverage or torque or any of those things to get way more out of what you're doing than just using the basic idea by itself without any kind of concept in mind, which would be like a mental version of this idea. There's a lot of big pieces on machines that move smaller pieces at a high efficiency rate. And it's no different for our mind. And if you think of a concept instead of something on the front lines of improvising, if you have an arrangement and a plan in mind about the way you're going to improvise, that's kind of like using a bigger muscle here. And these moments are only possible from a place of inspiration. It may not even be good inspiration. You may be like upset or angry or just pushed beyond your own psychological sanity limit, and that can turn into all sorts of whatever. Anyway, that's the main idea here, how we can use it for ourselves in our own minds. On an improvisation level, you have a persona with a set of habits and patterns that are built in through consciously creating verbs that create this identity over time, or you're looking at a bunch of unintended consequences based on muscle memory patterns embedded in years of exercise. You can think of any concept that you consider. The art of thinking about a concept in itself is a muscle. I don't know how else to think about it. It's like whatever you think about all the time, that's what you become. That's what you think about all the time. And those neuropaths are very opened from all the exercise they've had from being used. And electricity is going to follow the path of least resistance. And if you got all these caverns in your head that have been built based off of patterns of positivity, then you're going to be a positive person just by default. But also, you could be a negative person if you always act negative, because that's a muscle too. And whatever you use all the time is going to be what takes priority in your life. And if you line up your priorities with your worldview and you get it all in balance, then everything is a lot easier and you don't have to think about it nearly as much, because prioritizing your actions and your thoughts and your ideals, that's a muscle. And it's a big one, you know? It's like if you really flex it and get good at it, a lot of these detailed worlds that people get caught up in, they just line up in harmony right for you without having to address every single tentacle everywhere. You know, it's like you can really get into the source of all this crazy motion. And how does that even intersect with rhythmic intersections is where it gets real basic, but it's funny because it matters and it's easy to take for granted. But, you know, we're all in rhythms. We have cycles and cycles and cycles that are just interweaved with each other, and where they intersect is where it's the most fascinating, because there's always intersections happening just because there's so many loops of different sizes, you know. Our generalizations of time, those are based on cycles, you know. It's like time treats us all the same. We can perceive it differently, but even the act of perceiving something is a muscle flex, which has a time clock to it. You know, you could say the act of thinking about something maybe, you know, a micro moment might actually be about 7 to 10 seconds long, and maybe a scene might be 25 seconds to a minute or something. You know, it's like these moments don't have to be collected to really know what it feels like. Each one of those acknowledgments is a muscle flex. And the more you hang out with that, the more you'll just be like some of these really experienced farmers who know what time it is just by knowing where the sun is. You know, it's just one of those dimensions of thinking. But yeah, if you think of it like a muscle and you practice metacognition and you think of metacognition as a muscle, it's an idea that's so big it helps you just get everything done for way, way less. And how you feel about doing this kind of work is a rhythm. You know, if you're getting sleep at night, that's a rhythm. If you're, you know, what day of the week is it? That's a rhythm. You know, it's like people are really, you know, based on the intersection of things and attachment to things and the way that'll make you feel on an emotional roller coaster of its own cycles. You know, it's like, let's say you're in school and you go through Monday through Friday. You know, that pattern alone, Mondays aren't probably aren't the best day to ask for something epic, because everyone's got the Monday thing going on, you know, unless it intersects with some other thing going on where it's Monday, but also I get paid on Mondays or something. You know, it's like all these intersections affect our decisions, they affect our reality, and they affect our perception. And we're not even realizing that we're victims of these patterns telling us what to think and how to think and when and why. You know, it's like, I got to be at work tonight by 5. I know it's already 3. Oh, no. You know, it's like those are cycles purely. And what does that have to do with anything about how I feel? I'm going to do things today. I'm awake. You know, that's enough. That's it. And however I feel in the midst of that is going to be there because of other cycles. Let's say I just ate a whole bunch of food like, you know, 5 to 10 hours ago. That rhythm's going to intersect with the way I make my decisions in the next few hours, because then I'm going to have to make like some kind of bathroom pit stop or something in the middle of that, you know, and those are all intersections that have an effect on my day, my decisions, my mental path, my association of ideas and the way I stack them in what order. All of those things are based on giant intersections of patterns that go from being 10 seconds at a time or less to patterns that are so deeply seated, I don't even realize what I sound like in reality anymore, because this is all I ever sound like. And so I never really have an idea of like, you know, I could say I'm so figured out. I've really thought about all this so much that like, you know, I have an answer for everything. But it's like after years of that, is that really conscious or is it just autopilot? You know, and it's a fun one because it's totally conscious, but it's a muscle I've developed, and it's muscle memory now, which makes its own pattern, which has got its own momentum, which means it's going to take a lot for me to do the opposite of that, because I'll have to really flex the opposite muscle. And really, that's not as productive to me at this point in my life based on these rhythmic intersections that I'm in. It's like I'm like about to be 31 and I've got all this 30-year-old baggage or history or patterns or muscle memories, gifts, all of them. They're trying to tell me something about what to do with tomorrow and all that. And in that regard, I know what's working better or worse for me. But beyond that, I don't identify with it. It's none of my business to be proud of my progress. That's just the inevitability of growth within the realm of time, So these giant patterns, notice them because they're giant muscles. And, if I could really put a size to the way I think these muscles should be, I would say metacognition and intention are muscles that are so large they would actually take up the whole city, It's like, to me, that's how much that means. It's like if I go outside and I don't have an intention in the world, it's like I could end up in any room talking about anything, doing anything with anyone. But because I have a plan and a larger concept, I have a bigger muscle taking care of all those problems on the hyper anxious level, like they don't exist, because they don't if you have a bigger engine pushing you, like something like intention. That'll get you anywhere. I've seen it happen on all flavors. You have the overly ambitious and people who really just want a really nice couch someday. It's like people have goals for whatever, but those are intentions, and if they really intend to keep their promises to themselves and keep their intentions pure and strong, then that's a muscle, And if you get really good at flexing that muscle, you're pretty much, you're ready to do whatever you would like to do, understanding that you respect the boundaries of physics, so that gives you the right, you're right there, it's like, it's for everyone, and it always was. And, in the giant quest for experienced harmony, it's like you explore to express yourself, to find yourself at this place of common sense. And once you get there, try to maintain it, and it's just so much less work when you can use a giant muscle like intention or metacognition, or just, the idea of thinking a certain way to get a certain result. That's spiritual exercise, and there's a ton of different ways you can play this game. There's a ton of different insights you'll get, for every experience you've had. There's piles and piles of metadata and that you can glean from that. If you only meditate for 10 seconds a day, you know what it's like to meditate on an impulsive level. Yet, you also know what it's like if you do this every day you also get a not so impulsive demographics worth of information. It's like you get the impulsive world's habits and actions and patterns, and then you actually get to see the non-impulsive just by continuing to do something. Because impulsive all the way, that world is like, do this, now we're doing this, But it's more about just understanding who you are and who you could be, and how really we have a whole lot in common with the entire earth. And the more you hang out in certain rooms, the more you're going to understand about a certain world, a certain universe even, because you could consider every single walking person its own little universe. I mean, really push that as far as you want, but like on a basic level, yeah. If you can see it like that, then you can really start to respect your own world and be okay with including every aspect of yourself, so long as it's properly compartmentalized and, prioritized correctly, so that way your harmony is much more efficient. You can really push this to an extremely high level of efficiency for an extremely low level of actual labor about it, And even then, how do you feel about working and what you're doing with the rest of your life? It's like we're doing all these crazy things, but we're learning all these crazy things and we're learning more about what we already know about, but we're also learning new things. And I think that's the only skill we've ever worked on, is the ability to learn new things. Doesn't matter how good you get at any of it. All of the things that get you there are new each time, just the collection of knowledge. So as things continue, just keep going, don't be afraid. You're going to keep going, and don't be afraid of work. Don't be lazy, That's the real opposite of love, is laziness, because you can go all out of your way to procrastinate with the biggest grudges and stuff, but deep down, you could just go say, I'm sorry, and that would be a whole lot more work in comparison to trying to get your grudge out, because you're not looking at the real problem. But anyway, I love that idea. The opposite of love is laziness. So that really helps you retweak your tectonic rhythms, those ones that are so large that because they're built into your family ancestry, it's like, we've always gone deer hunting on Saturdays, and so therefore you got this other, we always go deer hunting thing going on, and that gives you those perspectives, and that's a giant rhythm, and that's what happens when you're inside of that dance. And so, if you're playing off of these patterns, the way to break them is to notice them and then actually intend to break them, because intention is a bigger muscle than most of these giant patterns. And even the intention itself is born off of the biggest pattern, the largest of patterns. It's like this is quite possibly beyond the confines of time, but it's not really important right now. It's just, I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because this is fascinating. I was a horrible improviser in comparison until I started thinking about the way I think about improv. I had no structure, had no plan, no concept, and I was just purely getting good at the impulsive world of improv, like pure ears, pure hands, like every syllable is the light, is the way forward, right? And then I had this idea about the larger muscles making smaller dimensions just effortless. And, suddenly thinking that I'm going to take this identity for a little bit and I'm going to make it go somewhere and have an experience with other identities. And it can be based off of fiction or nonfiction, because there's truth in both of those realms. And it's about using those truths to really speak to whatever, the past or the future, because of the universality of imaginative thought. So anyway, I know this is a long one, but it's epic. You need to know about it. Really give it a shot. What are you intending? How far do your intentions go? Do you flex your week-long intention muscle, or do you flex your 20-year-long intention muscle? They're different, but they're really not. It's just, you don't get to know, and you don't get to say it, and you don't get to really understand until you've done it. But, there's so many ways to do it. You've already done it in so many different iterations, This is an expression. Intention is an instrument. All your worldviews are tools. Everything is there to be used at the right time based on the rhythms. So rhythm's the only reason anything's cool. And if you can find these intersections, it's like, and you can really poke the bear at those intersection points, that's like triple word score or something crazy, extra bonus high score nonsense. So good luck with that. This is one of my more favorite concepts, probably just because it's super fresh, but for how useful it is and how much it's already given me the ability to keep a thread of thought in spite of how what a tightrope it is to not lose my train of thought about things like this. That's all because I have the intention of really speaking my experience and knowing that there's aspects of this that probably shouldn't go without saying, even though they go so hard without saying. It's just, that's how hard they go, is I got to say it. So I know this is kind of basic stuff, but again, it's mostly a gratitude meditation. Don't take these ideas for granted, and don't take the idea of verbal synesthesia for granted. You can totally play Mad Libs all day and switch senses and have all sorts of lyrical fun, but that doesn't have to be just for lyrics. It can totally, this works everywhere, and the only reason it doesn't work for you is because you weren't creative enough to create that, even though you created something. It's just, how do you synthesize? What are you doing? What's the point of anything, right? So help yourself, help other people enjoy the process, and understand that you're still just practicing only one muscle of learning something new. But it's the way you learn new things that'll keep you sharp for longer. So that way you don't just like go completely delusional, I invite you to take a look at yourself and really enjoy the process of creating yourself into whatever you would like to be. It's a lot like, it reminds me a lot like the Matrix, It's like as soon as in that movie they show like you're in that purgatory looking white realm, and there's all these, whatever you want pops up, and all you got to do is ask for it, and then suddenly karate or whatever. It's the same game, we're there, but we're not there. It's not that fast, but it doesn't change the fact that it's up to you to decide what you want to be when you grow up, and nobody's telling you what you're not allowed to be. It's just time is telling you what you don't have time for, but besides that, you got nothing but time. You got the rest of your life to wig out on anything. So it's like, there's no reason to let labels just stop your progress. There's no reason to say, all I do is I'm just a drummer or any of that stuff. It's like, nah, man, creation expects more, man. Come on, see what you can really show yourself, surprise yourself, because life is only as deep as you are. And if you really understand how far this can go, you really get to plug into the reality of reality alongside reality, which is about as pure as it can get, But anyway, much love, y'all. Good luck flexing the largest intentions you have. Intend a better art piece, if that's today, tomorrow, or the rest of our lives here. Our verbs are really our expression of what we're intending. So if you haven't thought about that, let it change your life for a little bit. Become something you never thought you had the energy to do, because you do. Believe in yourself. Trust me, I can't shut my mind up. So whatever, man, make it work. Make that dog run if it's gonna run. All right, peace, y'all.